Good morning, everyone. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. Um, I wasn't even planning on doing a stream today, but Amber Portwood was on Instagram Live last night and she spoke with her fans about what's going on with her. It was more than an hour long, so I am not going to show you the whole video, but I did take I kind of skimmed it down and sort of took away there was a lot of questions that she just was answering from people about their own stuff, or questions about psychiatric stuff or medication, that kind of stuff, what she does if she meditates, how she's taking care of herself, that kind of stuff. But there was some other in the beginning, she was answering a little bit of questions related to what was going on with her court case, which she didn't really say a whole lot, alluding to the fact that there was some more to the story, which she has been saying all along, related to the case between her and Andrew Glennon. And I think there was some, I don't know, it's hard, you guys, because on the one hand, I can definitely feel for her and I can understand what she's going through. And then on the other hand, it's hard because I know that in a situation like this, children are not with their parents, and there's just a lot here. There's so much to unpack. And I want to also try to be kind, and it's like a double-edged sword, you guys. It's a double-edged sword. So what I did was I took over an hour of content, and I skimmed it down into like 5 minutes, and I'll stop it and start it and we can go through some of this, but I think she'll answer some questions that we've been talking about. And then some of the things I didn't include were that she talked about how she's changed a lot in 10 years, and that people are quick to assume that this is all related to her mental health, which it might not be. She said she also had people forget that she's not the same person she was 10 years ago. And I had some questions about that, but here's some clips of what she said.
How's baby boy doing? He's doing amazing. He's doing really good. I'm doing good. I really do struggle so much. I wish the best for you. Thank you. You too, hon. What's the latest? I'm getting a text. Spread awareness, sister. Of course. I will definitely do that. My episode helped you. I am really happy to hear that. That's why I do what I do. I was vulnerable. I felt crazy. I was like really vulnerable, but I knew it would at least help somebody. Yeah.
Okay, so here is a few things. So she was just answering, it's just the very beginning, someone said the episode helped her, and she said that she felt vulnerable and that she felt crazy. Now, I don't want to be, later on in the stream, someone called her crazy, and then she yelled at them and said we shouldn't call people crazy because it's 2019. So sometimes I think she says really, really great things, you guys, and then other times it's like she herself describes herself as crazy. You know what I mean? Like she felt crazy. So I do get the sense that Amber believes that what she's doing is helping people. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. She says that she has helped hundreds of thousands of people over the years with their mental illness, and she feels like she has used her platform to advocate for these things. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know that you can absolutely reach people and help them in ways you never know. But I don't know that with the same token that it helps people, I think it also hurts people as much. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and I think there's a lot of questions here about how it impacts her family, her friends, the people that are close to her. And then I also think there's questions about the bigger dialogue of what it looks like to have these sort of issues play out in front of a camera, and whether or not it's ethical from a production standpoint to exploit it. I hope that makes sense.
That's really what I can say. Sending love from Cali. I am not liking Cali right now. I like Cali. I love California. I'm glad you have all this support from Gary. Yes, Gary is supporting me for good reason. So, just saying. I don't think he would be supporting me. Yeah. I am staying strong as much as I can. It's a really rough time, but I still I go on my DMs, I still help people because it helps me too when I go through rough times. What really? Why is he supporting me? You're just gonna have to figure that out yourself, guys. But big ups to Gary and Christina and everybody. And my whole family. I'm just gonna say everybody I know who's supporting me. Yeah.
Okay. So if you caught that in the beginning, someone said hi from Cali, and she said, ugh, I don't really like Cali right now. And then she sort of changed the subject. And she said, no, I love Cali. And then she sort of rolled her eyes. I'm guessing this has to do with the fact that Andrew Glennon has petitioned the court. He made a request on August 15th to move with James to Malibu. Now, she said in her live stream that she is seeing James, that he's doing really well, that Leah's doing really well, that everyone's doing really well. She said she thinks about her kids all the time. It's hard being away from them. And I think this is her response to, I'm mad that he wants to move to California. And then at one point in the stream, she says, I think I just need to find someone who's more Midwest. I need a Midwest boy who's more down to earth. She subtly shaded Andrew very, very a lot in this video. And so she talked about him without talking about him, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then again, with Gary she's saying that Gary is supporting her because, and then she went, as though there's more to this story, which has been what's been leaked multiple times into the media. Now, this is another thing that I've learned, is I was talking to someone who knows her, and I said, I feel like when there's stuff that's leaking to two specific sources, that I think it's her that's actually talking to them. And one was, I think that she is directly leaking to the Ashley Reality Roundup. And I think that she is also directly leaking to Us Weekly when they quote sources, but they don't quote her. And that was confirmed, that she speaks directly to both outlets. So a lot of what she is saying has been what's been leaking. So I think when we were kind of like, oh, this sounds like Amber, I think we're probably right. This was Amber leaking to these sources about her, all the excuses from the drunk driving to the cheating to this to that. She talks about how she, later on in the stream, about how, she loves people, she trusts people too easily. And it's, I think sometimes she also says she takes accountability. And I think sometimes the hardest part when you're in the middle of an SHIT storm is being objective about what's going on around you. And I would say it always takes two people, no matter what happens, to get into a situation. Whether or not she trusts someone or not, or trusts too much or loves too quickly, I think is sort of irrelevant because the same could be said for him. And I think history has a pattern of repeating itself, even though she says that, she's changed a lot. At one point in here, she says, and I didn't get a clip of her actually saying this, but she said, a lot has changed in 10 years. I'm not that same person. But her assault on Gary didn't happen in 2009. I believe it happened in 2010 or 11. She wasn't incarcerated until 2012 and wasn't released until 2013. So she was actively using drugs well into like 2012. And then she was released, and then she was on marriage boot camp in 2017 and admitted to a relapse in 2017. And then was on marriage boot camp being very violent, admitting to getting set off by things, admitting to getting triggered by people, lashing out, wanting to fight a lot of different people. So I think there's sometimes a mix between who she believes she is on truly, and then sort of the way that her anger and rage sort of take over. Because as much as I want to like be in her corner, at the same time it's extremely hard for me to forget that she was literally trying to fight with like a woman that's in her 60s on marriage boot camp. You know what I mean? And that was only 2 years ago. And only 2 years ago, she was admitting that she was not sober to the media following what happened on marriage boot camp. And so, yes, we can change in 10 years, but I don't see as much growth, I think, as maybe she sees. Or else maybe I don't know. It's so hard to tell. She also says that she's getting help and that she has a psychiatrist and she doesn't need any more help and she doesn't need rehab. Those were other things that she said in this live stream.
So, kudos to you for looking out for Leah, like she said. I've been getting the help that I need. Like I said, remember who I am, not what you hear. So, let's be positive. I don't want anybody sticking their foot in their mouth at the moment, please. So let's just be positive. Yeah, I am letting other people stay in my home for the sake of my child. But that's what a mother does. There's sacrifices and until things are figured out. It's okay.
Okay, so there she said that this was one of the other burning questions, was that why is Andrew staying in the house? And she said, I'm letting him stay in the house for the sake of my child. It's more probable that the no contact order that initiated between her and Andrew is sort of what precipitated the separation. And then after that no contact order was lifted between she and James, that no contact order is still in place with Andrew. And it's typical in a situation with the DV that if two people are sharing a home, even though she owns it, Andrew is still living there and that is his address, and he would have to be literally evicted. And that's because she is considered the assailant in this case. Typically with these situations, they would request that the perpetrator leave the home. So I think sometimes it comes off very altruistic that she's allowing this to happen, but at the same time, from a legal standpoint, he's exactly where he's allowed to be by the law. And then I think, she said, I have a psychiatrist. I think that's amazing that she has a psychiatrist, but I think when people tell her that she needs help, I think people are insinuating that she needs more help than just a psychiatrist. I know from my own experience and the experience I have with so many of you having BPD, and bipolar sharing with me that it's typically a combination of both psychiatry and psychology. Generally, psychiatrists are in charge of the medication and some talk therapy, but they're not always in charge of the psychotherapy that goes along with it, or the dialectical therapy or cognitive therapy that you can get from a psychotherapist. Typically, individuals with these multiple diagnoses will have a team of individuals, not just a single doctor. She says that she has a psychiatrist with 20 years of experience and she's confident and comfortable with this. She also said that this doesn't have to do with her mental illness, but it was clear that leading up to the assault that she had been struggling. So I think sometimes there's a disconnect between what she says and what the reality is, and then sometimes it's hard for viewers to weed through that. I think no matter what is going on, handling this with kind gloves is absolutely necessary. I mean, not kicking someone when they're down, but at the same time, asking someone to seek help isn't necessarily a negative thing in this case. It's more a concern. And I think sometimes when you're in these places, it's hard to hear that kind of feedback, and it's easy to be defensive and say, well, I already have everyone I need. Well, sometimes, the worst thing that you can do is think you know it all, especially when you're dealing with mental illness and with addiction. Sometimes you just have to succumb and be humble and sort of give in to the fact that you may not know it all, right? And you do need more help. So I think when people are telling her that, they're not telling her that to be mean, but I think she defensively just says, I'm fine. And I think that's part where some people struggle with her.
You seem calm and collected. I like it. Well, and this is actually me almost 24/7. I'm usually calm and collected if I don't have something crazy going on in my life. Like people. About the courts.
So right there, she said that she was acting very calm that night. Well, of course she's calm. She's by herself. She's staying by herself. She's in a quiet environment. And she said, I'm always calm and collected unless I'm in a stressful situation or there's people. Implying that, again, this is not her fault, but maybe it's the people's fault in her lives that cause her to act like this. And this is why I think people are like, Amber, please get help, because you have to be able to accept the fact that no matter what is going on in your life, if your behavior continues to stay the same, no matter what people are there, whether it's Gary or somebody else or Andrew or a friend or a family member, if you're consistently acting the same, no matter who it is, that's typically you, not the person. And she did this she kind of does this with all of her boyfriends, where she intensely loves them 1 minute, and then as soon as they're gone, she hates them. And that intense in and out can be part of her borderline personality disorder. So there's so much going on here, and it's like, in the one breath I want to be so empathetic, but then the other I'm like, please get more help than just your psychiatrist.
I think they're smart. I think courts are smart. They go to school, they go to college for things. I'm not going to talk about that. No, I don't need help. I've already go through help. I already have a psychiatrist. Oh my Lord. Anyways. She looks spaced out. I'm hoping she isn't on drugs. I'm speaking clearly. I'm answering questions, but I look spaced out. My mannerisms, my facial expressions are spaced out.
All right, you guys. So that is, then people started accusing her of being on drugs. Now, this goes on, and she kind of answers sort of the same questions over and over because it's very clear she's very limited in what she can talk about. But again, she didn't say she had a psychologist. She said she had a psychiatrist. And I'm not going to say that she looks like she's on drugs, but her eyes are very dilated. Lots of things can make your eyes very dilated, but they're very dilated, like very large, which could mean she's on something. I'm not sure what. I don't know if one of her own medications actually does that, but I would say that if you are, there's like this photo right here. If you look at her eyes, let me just show you. You can see how big her pupils are there. Typically, your pupils aren't that large. So I don't know if she's on something. I don't. But I also know her pupils are very large. And she does seem very calm. Maybe she is on some sort of sedative. I don't know. Maybe she's had alcohol. I don't know. I think maybe her medications could be doing this. I'm not sure. But the thing is that sometimes the hardest part of mental illness is surrendering. That was the word. Surrendering to your mental illness and realizing that no matter what you do, no matter what you try, the only thing that works is the tried and true combination of a good psychiatrist and a psychologist along with medication. She said consistently that don't trust what you hear, don't listen to it, remember who I am, not what you hear. And I think the problem there is that a lot of us remember that she has an explosive temper. We remember that she has an addiction issue. We remember that only 2 years ago she was struggling with her addiction. We remember that she has a violent history. So I don't disbelieve, or I think there's two Ambers, I think there's this extremely kind and loving and compassionate Amber. And then I think there's this very volatile and angry and triggered Amber. And I think that dichotomy is probably why she has a lot of support, because when she's good, she's great. But then when she's bad, she's terrible. And I am not here to down her and say, like, you suck, Amber. It's more like, I just think Amber does need help, even though she says she doesn't. I think she probably can't say a lot. She might want to be trying to play this narrative that she's the victim. There's so much going on in the court case. And like, people have been asking what's going on with the court case. Really not that much. She had a pretrial hearing, but she didn't have to be there. And that was on August 22nd. There's another pretrial hearing scheduled for September, but it's again a conference with the attorneys. She doesn't have to be there. A lot of probably what they're doing right now is discovery and talking about the evidence that's in the case and doing motions. But other than that, there's really not a lot going on in this case. No charges have been dropped at this point, and the trial is still moving forward. That doesn't mean at some point in time a deal couldn't be made in terms of a plea agreement. I don't know if she's going to want to take this to trial or not. I guess it will just depend on the total evidence that they have. Thank you guys, Lisa and Amanda, for your super chat. She says, I don't know if she should give mental health advice. I hope she's doing better, but I can't tell her. Now, another thing that she said, and that's a really good point, is Lisa, is that she said that she still is helping people in the middle of this. All right, so I'll tell you something, and this is only from my own experience, but when I was very deep into my mental illness and I wasn't taking care of myself, and by the way, I am managing it wonderfully now with a combination of working with my doctor and checking in with a psychologist when I need to, and then being on the right medications, I was in denial, and instead of fixing myself, I spent most of my energy trying to fix everyone else because I felt out of control. And this is something that people do a lot when they're struggling with mental illness, is they just instead of working on doing the hard work of helping yourself get better, we focus and like deflect and project and try to help everyone else. It's very, very common, and I learned that in therapy. So when she's talking about this kind of stuff, and then she's also talking about like, how do you manage panic attacks? She talks about meditation, deep breathing. The fact that she's having to manage her panic attacks through meditation and deep breathing is telling me that she's not on the right medications to manage panic attacks. I know this because I suffer from panic disorder. And if you are on the right medication, your panic attacks can be well controlled. I used to suffer from them multiple times a week, and I have not had one in years since I started taking medication along with working with my doctors to get on the right regimen. So I think that a lot of times there's a reluctance to take meds for anxiety because we think, oh, we can handle it ourselves. But anxiety is actually a chemical imbalance that can be comorbid with a lot of different disorders. And so she insists that she's on medications that will help it. However, she might be using medications like Xanax or Ativan, but those don't prevent them. There's actually medications out there now that help prevent them and keep you stable. And that's what I take. And I think a lot of doctors are moving away from prescribing benzos because there's more effective, non-addictive drugs that you can take for panic attacks. So I would say that more than anything, if people are going to her for advice, I hope, and she does tell them they should speak with their doctors, but I would suggest that if you have been looking to celebrities for advice on this kind of stuff, never ever go to them. Always consult your doctor, and don't be afraid to actually seek real help. There's a lot of stigma around this, and I think when we assume that we can meditate it away or listen to music to calm ourselves down, that's just a symptom of a bigger problem. Really what we need to, that to me is more, I'm not on the right meds, and I need to get on the right meds, and I need to be doing the work. So obviously there is a lot going on here. There's a lot to unpack, but I hope this gives you a better insight. And I'm going to continue to cover the story, and I guess my heart does go out to her, but at the same time, I would just hope that she knows that when people are making these sort of suggestions to her about getting help, this is not coming from a place of anger or we hate her. It's coming from a place of love and concern. All right, you guys, I'd love to know what you think of this live stream recap. Tell me more in comments below. Bye.